Good morning, Kid Monday Christian Church. It is good to see all of those that are inside of the house and inside of the seats today. Those who are viewing online, we welcome you as well as you are peering through a screen. We hope that you will come and be with us very soon. And for those who are apart from us, we welcome you as well. We are so thankful that we get to do this each and every Sunday. And so if you have found yourself here today and you are brand new with us, welcome especially to you as well. We also want to point you towards these folders that are located in the seat in front of you. And inside of that folder, there's a couple cards. There's a red card and a blue card. One is a new to KCC, and that would be for you. We'd love to get a little bit of information from you because we want to be a church that is connected, not just to God, but also to one another as we draw closer to Him, and that will help us in that process. Maybe you've been on your journey with Jesus Christ for some time now, and sadly, maybe you haven't found yourself in a personal place of ministry yet. We'd love to help you out with that. There's this next step card, so maybe you're thinking, maybe I need to take a deeper step into my relationship with Jesus Christ. Maybe I need to be baptized. There are a lot of things. We'd love to help you out and point you in the right direction. On the back side of those, there is nothing there. But we do that on purpose because maybe you have a prayer request, maybe something that is heavy on your heart. We'd love for you to take an opportunity to use all that real estate in the back because we want to be praying for you as well. Besides all that, there is also an envelope in there. If you came prepared to give, that's great. There's text to give options as well for those who aren't here. And you can drop those off, any paper product, you can drop those off in the slots that are located at each one of the exits of our auditorium in the house today. We're so thankful for what God is doing in our church. And one of the big things He's doing right now, starting this week, is VBS. It is VBS Sunday, and we're looking forward to what God is going to do the rest of the week. We had a huge turnout last year, and we love to see what God is doing in the hearts of our very youngest demographic. And so we're thankful to a lot of the ministry partners who are partnering with this place, and not only that, for all of those kids that are coming in very, very soon. So hopefully you will find your safe in a place of VBS. Maybe you aren't going to be able to be a part of that. We want you to be praying for what God is going to do here as they learn and have an active relationship with Jesus Christ. Once again, we want to inspire new people to come all the time. And so if you have been here for some time now and haven't signed up for one of these VIP lunches, we want to make sure that you do that because it's an opportunity for you to sit down with us and for us to sit down with you as a ministry staff and talk to you because we believe we are called to be relational people in God's economy. So for you and I, may we be doing that, and we'd love to sit down and have a lunch with you. That takes place at the end of every month, the last Sunday of every month. So make sure you sign up for one of those. Won't you stand with me today as we tune our hearts towards God, as He develops us and grows inside of us as we allow Him to do His work. Father God, we thank you so much for today. We thank you so much for the worship that we are going to have. We thank you so much for the word that we get to chew on today. And as we understand more of what it means to forgive, as we understand more what it means to do life, as often we try to put up walls and barriers in life, Father, may you tear those down so that we might take our next step with you. And Father, may that happen this morning. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Oh, your mercy never fails. There's a parable in the New Testament, Gospel of Luke, chapter 18, where Jesus is telling this story about a tax collector and a Pharisee as they go to worship. It kind of sounds like a joke, doesn't it? There's this tax collector and this Pharisee, and they went to church. But there's this story that he's communicating because there's a teaching element there. And the tax collector in the story realizes that he's a sinner, and he actually, the way he communicates is he kind of stands off in a distance, maybe a corner, and he beats his breast and says, "Oh God, please forgive me, a sinner." He knows that he needs to stand at a distance because the job that he had as a tax collector didn't have a whole lot of accolades associated. He was kind of a bad dude in the eyes of the community. The Pharisee, on the other hand, he dealt with distance in a different way. It was important for him to not be around those who were unclean or unhealthy or anything. And so he would purposely be at a distance from a lot of folks. Both of them dealing with distance. But then there's Jesus, and he brings about this concept that's totally different. This concept of being with us. In fact, earlier in the Gospels, Matthew particularly, it says, you call his name Emmanuel, God with us, is what that means. And so he tells this story, and the question is, which one was right before God? We come to the same issue. We have this opportunity of communion. We do this every week because we don't want to be distant from God. He's made a way that we can be closer to God, and his name is Jesus. And we got to see that with Miranda making a decision for Christ in following in obedience in baptism just a few moments ago. There may be others that are needing to make a similar decision. There may be some that are celebrating the fact that you have made a decision like that. And so we remember, we're not at a distance. See, when Jesus was with his disciples, just hours before he ended up on a cross, he said, hey, take this piece of bread. So go ahead, for those of you here in the room, peel back that top layer. There's a piece of bread there. For those of you online, you've got something that'll help you remember the body and the blood. And when he was with his disciples, he said, here, take this. Don't forget, remember my body. And it would soon be hung on a cross. So let's not forget that together. Under the next layer is some juice, and that was to help us remember the blood. Because blood washed away sin. That was the whole concept through the Old Testament. There had to be a washing, and it required blood. Jesus was soon to pour out his own blood. That helps us not experience a great chasm of distance because he's with us, and even closer. His Spirit that God provides is in us as followers as well. In us. Let's remember that together. I want to thank you for your continued exercise of the spiritual muscle of giving. Some of you have done that regularly for maybe years or decades. Others of you, maybe that's kind of a new spiritual exercise that you're doing. Thank you so much for participating in that. Some of you drop those off at the boxes that are at the doors here. Some of you online, what you're doing is mailing those in, or you're dropping it off through the course of the week, maybe in those boxes as well. Gayla and I were in Colorado last week seeing Lucy, our granddaughter. Actually, our kids too, but we were there, and so I gave through Text to Give last week to this church family, to this part of the kingdom of God, and we want to thank you for taking advantage of that opportunity as well. Because, we got VBS coming up. We just had a group that was here in Costa Rica last week that you've participated in sending. So thank you. The kingdom of God continues to advance because of your exercise, because of your worship of God and following Him obediently. Would you please stand? Lord, thank you so much for loving us, for us getting to see and hear and be a part and do, but because of you. God's people said,
same God who never fails, you will not fail me now, or you won't fail me now. In the waiting, the same God who's never late, He's working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley.
And it is so good to be back this week. As Todd said, last week I was in Costa Rica with a group. We have a mission organization down there called Broken Chains, and so we were down there doing some work. Got in about 2 a.m. yesterday morning and finally got settled, and I had to do a bunch of yard work yesterday once I got home and that. And I finally sat down last night to just take a break and was kind of looking on my phone, and I was all like, assassination attempt on presidential candidate Donald Trump. And I don't care like what side of the aisle you're on. I don't care how far right you are or how far left you are. That shouldn't happen. Like, I mean, it just shouldn't. The political divide that we have in our country right now has been heartbreaking to many for a long time. Like I've looked at many times the way that we as followers of Christ even relate to politics, and I thought, man, that just isn't right. So what I want to do this morning, there's Paul writes, Peter writes, both in their writing to pray for the leaders of your country. And oftentimes the guys that they were writing about, whether it be Nero or Domitian or some of the Caesars and emperors that were there, were very, very horrible people. And they're saying, hey, you need to pray for them. So I want to ask you just for now to just pray with me before we jump into this sermon series. Father God, God, we come to you today praying for this country, praying for the divide that is so present, for the violence, for the words, for the actions that are coming from both sides. God, this isn't a right-left thing. It's not Democrat, Republican. Father, I just pray that we would trust what your word says, that every leader in every country of the world, including this one, that every leader is in the position that they're in, God, because you put them there. And so, Father, I pray for Donald Trump, for safety. I pray for Joe Biden for safety. And I pray for your followers, Lord, that we would learn to walk in a way that brings you glory. And God, as I said, this isn't right or left. This isn't about our wants, our desires, our needs, our candidate. God, we know that you're going to put whoever in place, and who's ever in place right now, that God, you're going to do it for your glory. Whether we agree with it or not, whether we like the decisions, God, you have a history all throughout your word of putting in people into office and using them to bring you glory. So God, I pray that we learn to trust you in that. We thank you for the forgiveness of sin that we have through your love for us by sending Jesus to die for us. It's in his name that I pray. Amen. All right, so we are jumping into a brand new series this morning called Paper Walls. I appreciate Seth last week finishing up the Chronicles of Joe series as I was in Costa Rica and preaching on forgiveness. I thought he did an excellent job. I was able to watch that service in Costa Rica last week, and forgiveness is a touchy subject sometimes. But I've always said, as followers of Christ, if we claim to be followers of Christ, we ought to be the quickest to forgive and the hardest to offend. Like if you're going to offend me, like you have to work awful darn hard at it. Like you do. Like you're not going to accidentally offend me. In fact, you could probably walk up here and smack me in the face right now and we can go have lunch later. Like you're not going to offend me. Because I think that we're just called to forgive that quickly. And so I appreciate it in that series. And we're going to start a brand new series today called Paper Walls. There are a lot of things that I think that are worth carrying from one season or 1 year to the next in our life. You've got friends and habits, and like I was thinking about as I was in Costa Rica, it's about our 9th year since we started Broken Chains, and I've been in Costa Rica. Like that's a great thing. I want that to continue. This is my 15th year of being in Conley. How you guys kept me around that long, I have no idea, or why. Like, I appreciate it. I hope it continues. Like, I don't know. But it's a good thing to move from year to year. But for the next few weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some things that I think we need to leave behind, that we don't need to carry from season to season, from year to year, that I think we need to leave behind because growing people are called to change. And the thing that I think that we need to leave behind are excuses. Because excuses are like paper walls. Like from a distance, they look like they're real obstacles. From a distance, they look impenetrable. From a distance, they look like, hey, I really don't have any choice but to do what I'm doing or not do what I'm not doing or not try again because there is this wall. In fact, from a distance, an excuse actually looks a lot like a reason. Like, now there's a reason that I cannot dunk a basketball. I'm 5'7" and white. But there is no actual reason for me not to, well, treat my wife well. There's no reason for me to blow up in fits of anger. Yeah, there are some things for all of us. There's some things that I need to do. But I have a reason for not doing them. And honestly, if I were to look at some of those things or some of the things that I do and the reasons that I do them, if I were to push into them a little bit, you know what I'm going to discover? That my real reasons aren't really good reasons at all. Like they're really just excuses. So excuses get passed off as reasons, and then reasons become becauses. And we begin to hide behind those becauses. I mean, why don't you do, well, because. Or why haven't you? Well, because. Why don't you start? Well, because. Why don't you stop? Well, because. Why don't you just forgive her? Well, because. Why'd you quit? Well, because. Why'd you say that? Well, because. Why'd you choose to leave? Well, because. Like our becauses are excuses, and we begin to pass them off as reasons. And we've got becauses or excuses for a reason. Like they're real. They're legitimate. But they're paper walls. Like, and we can see this in other people so clearly. Like we can, like as a parent, like you can tell when your kid's just making an excuse. Why didn't you clean your room? Well, because, they're going to come up with something that it's not even a reason. We see it in our grandchildren. Our parents saw it in us. We see it in our employees and in our employers. Like we see it. Like we understand when someone else is making excuses. And we say things like, hey, you're just giving me an excuse. And what we're really saying when we say that is we're saying, hey, you know what? Like that's not a real reason. Like you're just making it up. So what I want to do is I just want to get us all on the same page today. And I don't do this very often and never really hear anybody do this. But I just want to start by having you guys repeat this after me. Ready? I'm gonna say it, then I'll count to 3, and then you repeat it. Well, my excuse is, so 1, 2, 3. My excuse is, let's try it again because that's kind of fun. Like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, like wouldn't that be great? Instead of just trying to make up a reason? Like wouldn't that be refreshing if you said, hey, honey, why didn't you take out the garbage? And you said, well, my excuse is, instead of just making up some reason or some lie. Like, why didn't you finish your homework? If your kids just say, well, my excuse is, well, at least we're being honest. At least we're dealing with reality, right? Why were you late? Well, my excuse is, well, if nothing else through this entire series, the next 4 weeks, if you don't get anything else out of this series, what I hope that we can take away from it is this, is that we can stop disguising our excuses as reasons. Like what if we would just, what if, even to ourselves, if we just realize, I just made that up. And here's the challenge. Here's the question that we're going to come back to over the next several weeks. Are you willing to consider that perhaps some of your reasons, some of your becauses, are actually just paper walls? That's just an excuse for something else. Maybe it's constructed out of things, you know what, that somebody told you. Maybe they're constructed out of things that something happened to you. Maybe it's something that somebody called you. Maybe it's something that somebody labeled you in the past. Maybe it's something that someone expected of you and you didn't come through. So now you know what, anytime that topic or that challenge comes up, it's like, no. Because in your mind, I tried and I failed. I'm just not going to do it. And I think it's possible for all of us at some level. Like we've invented these reasons to defend certain behaviors, certain reactions, certain overreactions. Why do you always overreact? Well, because. And then you present your paper wall. Why do you always? Well, because. And then you present your paper wall. Why don't you ever? Because. And you present your paper wall. And listen, and you've got a reason for them. Like, we're rational people. We have to have a reason. Like, we can't just say, well, I don't know. Why didn't you take out the garbage? I don't know. Why are you a jerk? I don't know. Like, why do you always overreact? I don't know. Like, we come up with a reason. And listen, some of those reasons seem legitimate. Some of them have come out of a trauma or a hurt or a situation in the past that are legitimate. Like, just a quick example. Have any of you created a paper wall around certain types of people? Like certain people? Maybe events or circumstances or opportunities. I ask you a question, are there certain types of people you don't like? For me, I'm going to be real honest and real vulnerable. For all of my adult life, and I'm going to be straight up honest, like I don't know why. Like my least favorite people group on the planet is preachers. Like always has been. Like if people say, you know you're one of them, right? Like I do. Like I don't know if it's because I hate myself. Like I don't know why. But people would be like, hey, you want to go to this preacher's meeting? And I'm like, nope. I don't like them people. You're one of them. Yeah, I know, I don't like them. But for other people, it's like rich people or pretty people or people who graduated or people who didn't graduate. Like we have all these kind of categories of people that we like or don't like. Democrat, Republican, like I don't know. And listen, like you should pay attention to that because you think it's them. It's not. It's you. And we're going to come back to that, but put a little check mark by that. The problem is you. But here's something big, and this is huge. Like the root of our excuses, like they are, the root of every excuse that I've ever heard is blaming something that is actually internal on something that is external. Well, like it is. It's something that's actually wrong with me, but it's hard for me to look in the mirror and admit that. So I decide, you know what, it's not me, it's something out there. I don't like preachers. Why? Because they're all fake. I don't like preachers because they're all hypocrites. So I decide that if it certainly can't be me when I look in the mirror. So it's got to be them. And what happens is, like we're actually hemming ourselves in and we're keeping ourselves out of opportunities and maybe relationships and maybe better relationships because of something I just won't admit to myself. I think about, how much further could I have been in ministry if when I was 19, 20 years old and just getting started in ministry, if you know what, I would have said, yes, I want to go to a preacher's meeting. Like how many opportunities I would have had to learn and to grow and to become better at what I do. But instead, you get me. Like, I don't know. And what happens is it sounds like, well, like I can't. I can't do that. That's what I would often say. Make up an excuse so I sound humble. Oh, I can't go to that. I'm too busy. I can't do that. I've got so many other things to do. And I can't, and the truth is actually I won't. But I'm not going to say I won't because I'll sound like a jerk, so I'll just say I can't. I won't say that I'm afraid to try. I'll just say there's not enough time in my life for that. Or that's just not my thing. That's just not me. I don't really care about that. When the truth is, like, I'm afraid to try. But I'm not going to say I'm afraid to try. I'm just going to say, you know what, it's just not my thing. And after a while, it becomes a reality. Again, it is an excuse. It's a reason that I've manufactured. It's that I hide behind it. And here's the point. We all have these. Like every one of us. And do you know what's on the other side of those paper walls? No. You think you do. And because we think we know, we're like, no, I'm going to keep this wall up. I'm too afraid. I can't do that. I'm not talented enough. I'm not educated enough. I don't know anybody. Like whatever it is. Like we don't know what's on the other side, so we put up this paper wall to keep us from going there. So is it possible that you're missing out on something because you've walled yourself in? Is it possible that it because is actually just an excuse? And you don't accept those from your children. You don't accept those from people that you care about. Like, why in the world do you accept those from the person that you're looking back at in the mirror? And maybe most importantly, like, why are we even talking about this in church? Here's why this is so important. Because I believe so many followers of Jesus are missing out. And it's not because of their lack of ability. It's because of their lack of willingness. Like, I want to be clear about that. There is a relationship between your ability to follow Jesus and your willingness to just walk through your paper walls. Like so many of you are missing out on great opportunities for change, for purpose, for meaning in life, because you're not willing to walk through the paper excuses that you're making. You've walled yourself in, you've hemmed yourself in, and you're sitting there and you're in church every week. You come, you want to be involved, but you're missing out on so much because you're hidden behind this paper wall that says, I'm not good enough, I'm too sinful, I can't, there's no way. Like, and it's a paper wall, it's an excuse that if you're willing to walk through it, God's got something so much better for you. And the reason I say that is because what happens is that excuses become the Lord of our life. Like they really do. Excuses can become our king. Excuses can become your boss. Excuses do several things. They tell you what you can't do. You can't do that. You shouldn't try that. You shouldn't talk to them. You shouldn't apologize. You shouldn't acknowledge that. You shouldn't. And then excuses tell us the things that we should do. You should stay home. You should avoid that person. And the next thing you know, what? Your excuse is your king. If you're a Christian, you could spend the rest of your life singing about King Jesus and serving King Excuse. But I want to tell you kind of what's on the other side of it. And I'm going to ask something, and I don't need you to answer this out loud. Because I think I'm right, even though I don't know every one of you. I think I'm right. Do you want excuses to be the boss of you? Like I don't. Some of us have never met, and I would say you don't either. But they will be the boss of us until we acknowledge that they're not reasons. Like they're not real. They're just becauses. They're just excuses. We're making stuff up. And I want to be fair. The reason we make stuff up, the reason we make things up, is there's something behind it. There's something real. Something that may be incredibly painful. And I'm not downplaying that. But regardless of the reason, regardless of the cause, regardless of the fact, like, listen, if I heard your story, I may say, yeah, I'd probably have the same paper walls. We've got to be willing to walk through them. I love the book of Hebrews in the New Testament. The Bible's broken up into two kind of testaments, the Old Testament and the New Testament, or the New Covenant. And in the New Testament, there's a book called Hebrews. And it's really just a long sermon that we've divided up into chapters and verses. And we don't know who wrote the book of Hebrews. But the author of the book of Hebrews, throughout the entire book of Hebrews, is trying to convince them of something. He's saying, hey, don't use the difficult times that you're going through as an excuse to quit following Jesus. Because they were following Jesus, and they hit some bumps in the road. They hit some difficult times. And there were some hard things going on. So he's saying, look, throughout the entire book, he's going, hey, please don't give up on following Jesus. Like, I know there's difficult things. I know there's some legitimate reasons. But really, they're just paper walls. Don't give up following Jesus. And in the midst of this, he gives us some great advice. He says this in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. He says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and I love that. Like when I was in Bible college, it said whenever you see therefore in the Bible, you need to go back and find out what it's there for. And if you go back to chapter 11, you see the writer of Hebrews is writing down all of these great people of faith. He talks about Abraham and David and Sarah and Isaac and Noah. And then you get to the very end of the chapter, and he said, hey, and don't forget about all these people, you don't even know their names. But they've starved to death. They've been fed to the lions. They've been put in the arena. Like, they've been burned. They've been like, and he says, don't forget about those people. And then he starts chapter 12 and says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. Say, hey, I know things are tough for you right now. I know you have reasons for all these paper walls that you have put up. But think about these people that have gone before you. Like, they're a cloud of witnesses to you. And he says, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. He said, hey, I know you got reasons for your excuses. I know that you've got reasons for your reasons. But this is so good, let us throw off everything that hinders. Throw it off. As you think about the future, as you think about moving forward, as you think about taking your next step, throw off anything that's going to stop you. And then he kind of uses a sports analogy, and I relate to those things. He's talking about running. He says, anything that hinders you from running, like you're in a race, run. Don't let it slow you down. You need to get rid of those things that are slowing you down. And then he says, and the sin that so easily entangles you. And I want to just give you a very simple, quick definition of sin. And it's simple, because I'm simple, and there's more to sin than what I'm going to tell you, and there's going to be somebody online that's going to try to offend me by critiquing my definition of sin, and I'm okay with that, because you can't offend me. But sin, according to Jesus, all throughout the Gospels, sin is very simple. Sin is anything that hurts someone else. Anything that hurts someone. Sin was anything that hurt you. Which makes sense. Because for God so loved the world. He loved the people of the world. That he doesn't want the people of the world to get hurt. He doesn't want them to hurt each other. And like a good parent, you know, like I was a good parent about 47% of the time. But when you see somebody do something to one of your kids, or one of your kids is doing something to another one of your kids and then hurts them, you're not upset because they broke a rule. You're upset because someone got hurt. Like you hurt your sister. Like there may not even been a rule about it. But now there is, right? Like I'm going to make one now. But we're upset because they hurt their sibling. So anything that hurts the other person, that's what sin is. And if you hurt yourself, you know what? And from God's perspective, who loves you, that's a sin. Lying's a sin. Lying's a sin, you know why? Because it destroys relationships. It hurts someone else. Lying to yourself is a sin. Because lying to yourself hurts you. And an excuse, if you want to look from that perspective, an excuse is really just a lie that we tell ourselves about ourselves. I can't. I'm not good enough. I tried. Like it's an excuse. We lie to ourselves. We tell the person in the mirror about ourselves a lie that we can't move forward. And when we hurt ourselves, we're sinning. So when the author says, hey, I want you to get rid of anything that hinders you, anything that impedes your running the race and entangles you, like it includes that. It includes the paper walls that we've put up to block ourselves in. In fact, some of you have lied to yourself. You've got so many paper walls. In fact, before this series is over, maybe even before this day is over, maybe we've already gotten there. There are some things that are coming to your mind. You've lied to yourself. You've hurt yourself. You should go home and maybe apologize to yourself. He says, hey, let us run this race with perseverance. And then he says this in verse 2. I love this. Can we get verse 1 and 2 up there both? Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And there's a comma there. It's not a period. He says, fixing our eyes on Jesus. It's the same sentence. Is there. Is literally looking to Jesus. Like, I know these paper walls are there. Like, I know the hurt. I know the pain. I know it's all real. I know it's there. But stop focusing on that and fix your eyes on Jesus, who is the author and the perfecter of our faith. Like, he's the one that you need to be focused on. Stop looking at the paper walls. Stop looking at the excuses and start stepping in to what God has for you, because there's so much more than what you're experiencing right now. Just keep your eyes on Jesus. Stop focusing on yourself. Because listen, if you live for yourself, you only have yourself to show, right? Live for yourself, and in the end, you only have yourself to show for yourself. Great funerals. You know what a great funeral is? So me as the preacher, I don't have to get up and say very much, because there's people all around that are just talking about this person. You know what a bad funeral is? When they have to look at me and say, Josh, just get through it. Live for yourself, and you only have yourself to show for it. People who build paper walls, and again, like, nobody does it on purpose. People who build paper walls and live behind paper walls, people who make excuses, rarely make much of a difference. Have you ever noticed that? Paper walls, they make us small. They make us self-absorbed. They rob you. They rob others. And I love how this verse concludes. It says, for the joy set before him, talking about Jesus, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. You ever thought about all of the paper walls Jesus could have put up? I don't want to. In fact, he was in the garden, and he even prayed with his disciples. He said, God, take this cup from me. Like I don't want to do it. But not my will, but your will. And I think when we see that, it's so powerful. So I'm going to ask you to stand, and I just want to kind of close with a couple of questions today. Whether you're a religious person or not, whether you're a Christian or not, can we all agree that we just need to shut down the excuse factory? Because they just weigh us down. They just hold us back. And they're robbing you of your potential. and they make you small. So the question I want to leave you with kind of today is, what are some of the paper walls that you've put up that are preventing you from taking your next step? What are some of the excuses that you've been making that have been holding you back? Are you willing to leave them behind for the more that God has for you? For some of you, it's stepping into an area of service. You know, in my years of ministry, I've heard so many excuses of why we can't serve. You don't know enough, that's not my thing, that's not my, and it's an excuse. For some of you, it is taking that next step and being immersed in baptism, as we even saw this morning. You've had your excuses. Well, I need to clean myself up first. I need to get myself right. I need to quit this, or I need to stop that. And listen, it's a paper wall. You can't clean yourself up. That's why Jesus had to die. For some of you, it is what Seth talked about last week in forgiveness. It's forgiving. And yeah, I know you've been hurt. I know what they did was wrong. I know it never should have happened. It never should have been said. It never should have been done. But it's going to lock you in behind a wall. What is the paper wall that you need to break through today? Father God, today, my prayer is that you would expose our walls, that you would give us the willingness to walk through them. Thank you so much for Jesus, who broke down every wall, every excuse, and died for us.
Who are you going to follow, church? Sing this out with us. Decided to follow Jesus, and I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. There's no turning back. There's no turning back. No more excuses. The will be still I will find. No, no, no. Still I will follow. so much for joining us. What are your excuses holding you back to following Jesus? Have a great week, and we will see you right here next Sunday.